Everyone, with an emphasis on the word afternoon as opposed to the middle of the night or early morning, which is usually the time, as long as I can remember, thinking back over 30 years or so, that we've signed this bill. And this is a credit, frankly, to all the legislators and to our staff. I wanted to have Big C. Usually I try to stay a little bit distant from Saran because he makes me look like I'm over 2 feet tall. But if you think about it, Saran's new to this job. We knew from the beginning that he was the best person to fill some huge shoes, like Mike Jackson, with all the years of experience. But I think he brings to the table something that's so incredibly important, and that's the ability to work with all of you and come up with a product that's good for our constituents, the people that we work for, that's good for the financial position of the state, which is incredibly important to all of us, I know, but particularly important to me as a former Secretary of Finance and somebody who's worked on these bills when I worked for then, Senator Carper. So you can't, I can't underscore how happy I am that we are all here in the afternoon. I think with smiles on our faces. I'm not 100% sure. I was instructed that we were going to have masks because it was such a tight gathering. I'm just going to assume that all you smart people are vaccinated fully, so we shouldn't have to worry about that. But just in case.
Come on up here.
Yeah. I am so happy that you brought Ruth Ann. I've heard of Ruth Ann. Now I know that she exists in person.
You can't have her.
We keep Ruth Ann.
It is certainly something to worry about. The way you steal our people, Bert Scaletti. But again, as long as I've been doing this, the most important relationship has always been with the Budget Office and the Comptroller General's Office. And this particular team, with the expertise that both of you brought to the table, and more importantly, your willingness and ability to work together to represent your interests. I understand those are your interests, not necessarily my interests. Saran understands that my interests are not necessarily your interests. And so, in some ways, your two ability and your staff's ability to bring together so that I can be happy and all of your interests and the people that you work for can be happy. And I think the result that we have in front of us that you have presented to me for signature today represents that kind of cooperation. It is something, frankly, that's a hallmark of the way we have done business in our state for so many years. We always get huge kudos from the rating agencies, which might not mean a lot to a lot of folks, but it's incredibly important for the way that people look at our state, that we're well managed. We have a fiscally sound operation. We don't do things willy-nilly, and as a result, we're one of, 7, Rick, or 8 AAA bond-rated credits in the country, which means that when we go to the markets to borrow money for some of the things that we're doing, we can sell our bonds at lower rates and therefore save our taxpayers money. For most of you, what these budgets represent is your commitment to the people that we work for. And I know and understand that, and oftentimes those two priorities come in conflict. Our desire to work together on education and economic development and corrections and law enforcement, all those different priorities for all of us are things that are part of this budget, but have to be done in a way that's fiscally sound. Because if you think about and look at other states across the country, the ones that are struggling and have trouble, they don't do it right. And so they're not able to, in the long term, to provide the necessary services for the people that they work for, and they're not able to attract additional employers to our state, which largely make a lot of that revenue possible. We start each year with some huge priority, and it starts with education. We sign the opportunity funding legislation today. We put other resources aside for the Reading Commission. We've been working on providing resources for social emotional help. Across the board, that's the most important thing that we do in state government, to make sure all of our children have an opportunity to be successful in life. And I mean every single one of them. And that's a hard thing to accomplish, but working together, we're making real progress. So we've been able to hit so many of those priorities. We talk about direct service professionals, again, a high priority, always a challenge because their ask is so high to do that in a way that's responsible and and sustainable. This has been an incredibly difficult year, right? We came out of a pandemic where we lost hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue. Fortunately, we were set up in a strong position going in because all of you had bought into our approach to be reasonable on the operating side, set aside reserves, and we were able to get through that like no other state in the country. And then we come out of it mostly with revenue that's coming not from our taxpayers, but taxpayers from outside of our state, that it's enabled us to keep our commitment to the priorities and have significant resources for the capital budget as well. A lot of people wish that there were issues around tax policy or tax cut. There are some minor things there. One of the biggest concerns is the federal money that's coming to us comes with the kind of direct restriction that it can't be used for those things, and we didn't want to confuse there. Those opportunities may present themselves in the future. So I'm just so grateful for all of you, for Rick and his team at Finance. Rick, when I first became Secretary of Finance, Bob Byrd said to me, the job of the Secretary of Finance is really easy. Just make sure that the governor has the revenue that he or she needs to do the things they want to do when they want to do them. And if that's the major objective, then it's better to be lucky than good.
Yes, exactly.
And you're both good and you've been lucky, and we've been lucky as well. And I can't say enough about Saran, how he has stepped in and worked with all of you. He's got a great team in his shop, and he's got a great partner in the Comptroller General's office. And again, that relationship is incredibly important. So with that, I'd like to see if the chairs would like to add some thoughts, and others as well.
Thank you, Governor. First of all, I'd like to thank the leadership on both sides of the aisle in both chambers. I mean, they were really a guiding force behind the Senate, and it worked so well. And we can do it when we need to. And the incredible job that Ruth Ann Jones and the Comptroller General It seemed like I lived down in the basement for quite a while, and also for Saran and the budget team and all they did. And the work that the committee did when we went through this budget piece by piece, and also the grant and aid, we helped an incredible amount of people and got a lot of good things done. And a lot of the good things were how much money we actually saved away for the stabilization fund and those things. But I'd like to compliment the legislators in the House and the Senate. I did not realize till we started going through this budget how much each individual legislator knows their district. They know it. They know the exactly what they need and where they need to put it. They know the senior citizens, the veterans, the first responders, firemen, ambulance, police. They know everything about their district, and it was really nice when I would bring up something and talk about this, not knowing, I know right where it is, it's right here on this corner. Just a credible job by a legislature, and they just did such a good job. And I'm very, very proud of them and everything that we accomplished. And thank you, Governor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Governor. Sorry, Troy, go ahead.
Oh, okay. All right. So I want to start at the very beginning by no, not that early. But thanking Senator Sokola and Senator Brian Townsend and Tizzy Lockman for having the faith in me to serve in this capacity. And it has really been an honor to work with Representative Carson, with Ruth Ann, with Saran and their teams, and everyone down in the Comptroller General's office. But also starting at the beginning, I want to thank the governor for the budget that he presented us. The governor's recommended budget was an excellent starting point. Certainly showed what the governor's priorities were in terms of addressing education, economic development, housing issues, you name it. But throughout the year, as Ruth Ann can tell you, she and her team dealt with 90 fiscal notes. So there's, over the past several years when there really hasn't been money, it's almost like all these ideas were just building up and building up and building up. And there were a lot of needs that we wanted to address. And we had a lot of priorities, Representative Carson and I, and key members of our caucuses. For instance, we had Representative Longhurst had her House Bill 100 to put mental health resources in all the schools. We had Senator Lockman with the Reading Consortium. We had Senator Ennis, who was advocating for raises for state retirees. We wanted to do something for state employees. So we had a lot of big ticket items that we were trying to wrangle with. And what we really wanted to do was put together a budget that was realistic and that was sustainable. And I think ultimately that's what we did. We came in with a budget that kept budget growth just under 5%. And I'll tell you, I'm sure Representative Carson could attest to this as well. We were getting a lot of pressure from members of our caucus that there were other things that that many of us would have liked to see done, and more money that we might have liked to put into certain areas. But again, we were trying to do as much good as we could this year while being responsible and creating a budget that we felt could be sustainable. So again, just in closing, I want to thank Ruth Ann Jones. She was really the star of the show behind the scenes, keeping us all focused, keeping us all on task. And she and Fiscal and the rest of their team were just fantastic. Saran and Courtney I see back there, and their team were a pleasure to work with. We didn't always agree on everything, but we worked through the little differences that we had, and I'm very proud of the finished product. And thank you, Governor.
Thank you, Trent.
Great, it's my turn now. So, Governor, thank you very much. I'm going to echo a lot of the same comments that you heard from my chair of Joint Finance. And so, first, thank you for a guideline. I think it was very helpful for us to understand. I mean, yes, we all know our districts very, very well, but obviously, as the king of the state, you certainly have oversight. Don't write that down.
Wait a minute.
But all of the comings and goings in the state, and so you were able to give us a good guideline to follow. For the first time in a long time, we were able to hit the dredging situation down at the beaches, and that has been a long time coming. I'd like to point out that Representative Gray, year over year, has asked for money, year over year. And so it was with your supports and some of the guidance, but also with Ron's determination to make sure that we were putting money in, not just into our Clean Water Acts, but we were also, and not just to our roads, but also that we were focused on, the biggest tourist area in the state of Delaware. And we all know that getting on the water, that is an economic advantage, not just for our watermen, but also for making sure that we are feeding everyone.
And we also know that we get calls not just from people who live in his district.
Absolutely.
But live in all our districts as
Absolutely.
well.
Absolutely. So it was neat to be able to do that. I have probably one of the best co-chairs around. Representative Heffernan, if you have not spent any time with her, you absolutely must, because some of her one-liners are the best. And in some of our and in some of our late nights when you just need a little bit of a giggle or a little bit of, pulling you back down to earth, she definitely was a good person to sit next to, and her guidance was just priceless. So thank you very much. But we could not have been where we are without my chair and co-chair of the Joint Finance. Thank you so much for sending that money over to the bond. I won't lie to you, I did quite a few dances quite a few times, and it was great. I would be remiss if I do not acknowledge my leadership in the Senate. Thank you very much for the opportunity to serve in this capacity. I've certainly enjoyed it, and to say that I could not have done it without the guidance of Ruth Ann Jones. It is really cool to say that it was 3 women who, first time ever, the bond committee, and the first female Comptroller General in the state of Delaware. I also want to say that, Saran, for all your patience and your determination, I hope that we made you proud as well. Being a first-time person doing this, right? Woo, we did it together. And lastly, thank you very much to all of my colleagues. You guys were fantastic, especially my colleagues across the aisle. There were a few tense moments. Thank you for being so graceful and kind to allowing me to say what I needed to say, but yet doing your job and delivering to your caucus and leading your caucus to getting this bill signed today. Fabulous job.
Okay, it's good to take that mask off. I just, first of all, Deb Heffernan, the co-chair of the Bond Bill Committee, I think Senator Nicole Poore and I are like members of the Mutual Admiration Society, because she is the best co-chair ever. Sorry, Dave. Sorry, Dave. But it was great. Our team was great. Ruth Ann, Bert, Scaletti, you guys did amazing. Ruth Ann. Our Bond Bill Committee members were amazing. And this is the very biggest, what I said is the very biggest jobs bill we've ever done in Delaware. Woo!
Enough said there. Again, thank you, kudos to all of you from the leadership and the chairs, to every member of the committee, to the leadership in each of the caucuses. I know how much you provide in terms of guidance to all the members, and again to our commitment to an approach that we started talking about 4 years ago that I think now is proven to serve us well through one of the more difficult economic times in our country's history. Hopefully, the worst that any of you will experience during your time as members of the General Assembly certainly was the worst that I've seen in my almost 30 years of service. And so we do have a number of first resolutions to sign. As you know, it all starts. And by the way, I think it's important to note that the changes, most of the changes that we operate under now were put in place in the late 1970s by then Governor Pete DePon and his team. And I say that, I mention that mostly because he just passed away. But his passing, he has left a legacy for our financial management here in our state. We've improved on it, built on it through Republican and Democratic governors since then, and I think we continue to build on it as we embrace the approach that we've taken now. It's more important now than ever, I think, because our revenues seem to be more responsive negatively and positively to the conditions in the economy. So it requires us to kind of strike a steady course. Hard to do when you have more revenue coming in, estimated to come in, than you've established as your budget target. But then, of course, that puts a premium on some of these, on the bond bill, one-time projects. We will have an opportunity with this budget bill, the budget, capital budget bill, and the one last year, in addition to the federal resources that are coming to our state, to really make some transformative improvements and to put in place some transformative moves across our state in every district. And I've talked to most of you, and I know many of you are focused on those, and you should be, because it really is a once in a probably generation opportunity to do that. So first of all, as I said, we have the House Joint Resolutions which establish the revenue estimate. And again, these are estimates, right? It's the revenue estimate for this year, FY21, and the revenue estimate for next year, FY22. And they are just that, you know, so they're what DFAC has established. The requirement to use the DFAC revenue estimate instead of the way it used to be done when the governor's team, OMB team, would just come up with a revenue estimate and the legislative group would do the same, is a great way to do business. Many states don't do it this way. And so this is House Joint Resolution.
Over this way.
Thanks for joining us, Gerald. That's House Joint Resolution 5.
Where do I sign, Governor?
House Resolution 6. Okay, so now that we've established the revenue estimates, then we have the budget bill, House Bill 250, which is what operating budget was discussed by the co-chairs. It's so thick, it's hard to sign it. Again, a lot of work. You know, the President of the United States likes to say, don't tell me what your values are, show me your budget, and I'll tell you what your values are. And this is a representation of our values. All right. In addition, given the new way that we approach the revenue that we have, after a budget that's based on a DFAC target, we then have one-times that mostly are on the capital side, but also House Bill 251. I think it's also important to point out that our starting point each year as we put together our budget is to make sure we're taking care of our state employees. And that starts with, now we bargain with a lot of our employee units, as you probably know, and so those contracts or those agreements that we reach, we have a time frame to reach them prior to the budgeting process so that they can be included as part of this. There's also an opportunity to do some kind of one-time bonuses, again, given the nature of the revenue that we have, and we're able to do that as part of that supplemental. And then this is the bond bill.
Yay.
We call this the ladies' bill. House Bill 200. All that dredging work that you heard about, that's in here.
Roads, the jobs.
Roads, jobs. We also, there's,
Courthouses.
yeah, there's more money than a little bit in here for Sussex County courthouses. So, I think we probably should, if we could get the chairs to come move around and leadership to move in, and we can have folks hold up. This is your, you want to grab this? This is Bob.
Yes, thank you.
Where's, it's your bill. Who wants to hold? You want to hold this one?
I kind of stay inside.
You want to hold this one? Somebody want to hold the revenue resolutions? All right. All right. Everybody looking forward. Come on, Tim.
There we go.
Come to my side, Tim.
Yeah.
I don't know who to look at.
I don't either.
Look straight ahead.
Look at the guy with the Yankee hat.
All right.
One picture without the mask.
All right. All right, hold on. We got a suggestion, or we got a request. One picture without the mask on. You got to hold your breath, though.
Yeah.
There we go. God, that feels good.
Ready? Show those pearly whites. All right.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Trying hard not to breathe on the governor.
Thank you, Governor.